Folks, I'm so excited on our theme of wonder. I'm so excited to bring up our main event, our speaker this morning, Rebecca Henderson. We think you're all sufficiently tenderized now. So Rebecca Henderson is a social sculptor whose personal art practice explores humor as the humble messenger of truth. A graduate of Virginia Commonwealth University Sculpture and extended media program, she's an advocate for the physical presence of words, no matter how gritty or messy, and she's a frequent letterpress resident at the Penland School of Crafts. Honored to be able to call herself a native Charlottean, she has returned home to the Queen City to serve as a champion for revolutionary ridiculousness and ecstatic empathy. I love Rebecca Henderson, and so my fellow Charlotte creatives here to speak to us on our global theme of wonder. Please welcome the one and only Charlotte's own and one of my favorite people on the planet, Rebecca Henderson. Come on up, Rebecca.
Sorry, for people who came here for a blonde, I'll understand if you leave. My apologies. First let me just thank everyone who was a part of this. I know there's been a preponderance of thank yous, but it's my turn with the microphone, so this will be the last one. Matt and Tim and the CreativeMornings team, thank you so much. Discovery Place, this is like a lot of chairs. People who stock the bathrooms with toilet paper, no one ever thanks them, but like massively, massively important. Your efforts don't go unnoticed. I am grateful. I'm also like pretty sure my employer is here somewhere, so just like no one tell her I'm not at my desk and we'll be fine. And let me just start with like a big old disclaimer. I'm like just another person. I got asked to give a talk and I'm gonna give like the hell out of it. I'm not like saying this is what's right for you. My life has been like a long and winding road, and hindsight is like 40/20. I should have seen like a lot of this stuff coming. But like big picture today, I guess like I'm on a stage with a microphone, and tomorrow I turn 30. So like I haven't made, thank you. So I haven't made like too much of a mess of it yet, I guess. I spoke too soon. There we go. Right. I know. Just as an explanation, this is my father and my sister. They are both lawyers. That is me. I am not. So throughout like my early school years, my parents were always given like the same consistent remark. They are here. They can corroborate this story. She has such a lively imagination. And like in retrospect, telling someone that their kid has a lively imagination is like the bless her heart of elementary school. It's like a subtle way of saying like, buckle up, it's gonna be a rough ride for this one. I, like my imagination was like more or less allowed to run completely wild. I was like consistently boasting an amazing array of scabs, had very strong opinions about like the all occasion versatility of tie-dye. Like I did not like ballet. And I didn't really like pink. But I will say that like many kids, you know, I drew a lot of pictures, and the pictures always started like this. It was like, boom, way up here, sky. Boom, way down here, earth. And then like the rest in between, you're just kind of like imagining. And much like previous iterations of like the earth and the heavens, it was like pretty good. But there must have been a moment where I thought for the very first time, like, wait, where does the sky like actually stop? I wish I had like an amazing first memory of like me pondering the horizon, but instead I remember a lot of jingles about like Pop-Tarts and stuff instead, because like that's how capitalism works. So just like bear with me that I pretend that I have that, but it must have happened. So like when imagination did not satisfy the need, I had to have wondered, right? Because at some point our drawings, they're always gonna change. As children, we learn a certain kind of patience with reality that it's worth the extra wrist exhaustion to kind of make the earth and sky touch. In high school, I moved on from my landscape period. I wrote for a school newspaper. Now, I only had like a few models for what it meant to be a writer at the time, and like most of the authors we read in school were either men or dead, and like neither of those seemed like great options for me. Even now. But still, I loved to write. And true story, actually, the biggest trouble I ever got in high school was when I broke into school on a Sunday to work on the newspaper. And as punishment, they gave me school on the weekend. Which, like, I don't know if you've ever read Dante's Inferno like I did in the 10th grade, but it's kind of was like a as you sin, so are you punished type deal. And if I hadn't gone to Charlotte-Mecklenburg public school, I would not have been able to efficiently savored that irony. So, like, thank you, CMS. You know, my imagination, it stuck around, but like growing bored with the fantastical scenarios, it settled on new kind of more terrifying things. It made me imagine that like my friends hated me. I started to think I was like stupid and worthless. Like when the phone rang, I imagined it was the hospital calling to tell me both my parents were dying and the cat had run away. And like, why would the hospital know that the cat had run away, you ask? Well, like, I couldn't tell you because I was so worried being like probed by aliens at night who like ditch me in a field once they discover I like caught a disease from that time that I like used that porta-john because my mom told me to go to the bathroom before we left, but like I didn't, and so I had to use the porta-john like near the soccer field, and like before we left I didn't have to go, and now I have to go, and like, oh my God, she's dead now, and the phone is still ringing, and it's gonna be like so embarrassing when none of my friends come to my funeral because they hate me because like this disease that I caught from this porta-john is like now fatal, and like I'm gonna die, and they won't come because I'm so stupid and worthless and dumb, but like thumbs up. This was like one of the first times I drove. I was too scared to drive. I waited till I was 18. What teenager does that? Because yes, my imagination has another side. When you're capable of imagining the worst in perhaps like more vivid color than the average person, you can lose yourself wandering in worlds of dread and fear. And during that time, when the imagination and reality sort of blur together, it can be like very bad. Do you ever wonder like how to distinguish between knowing and feeling? They seem to sometimes be at like the same party, but in completely different rooms. And like my imagination had the ability to like lock the doors on both the rooms, like crank the music up to 11. And I had to find a way to like bust those doors down and quiet the party down and let them talk. And for me, that's what art does. It brings knowing and feeling together. So as it came to pass, I graduated college in 2010 with a BFA in sculpture and extended media. That's right, I got a degree in the arts in one of the largest recessions our country's seen in a while. I had such a big imagination, bless my heart. Now I don't know like how many of us gathered today got like a degree in the fine arts or humanities, right? It's basically like getting a PhD in food service, right? So I had like a lot of weird jobs in my 20s, including like gigs basically. This was a part-time gig where I was paid to stand in this coffin-sized hole in a wall for like hours, unmoving, unspeaking, staring. I like pink even less now. Like a lot less. But through it all, this job included, there was only one job that I ever really disliked. I had moved back to Charlotte, and I landed my first like job in a chair, which for an artist is like a big step in your life. It's like, I'm gonna sit down and work. It was at this very high-end, fancy stationery company, and I was laying out invitations to parties that I would never be invited to, which like, it's understandable because we're strangers, but as like a middle child, it still kind of like ate away at my soul. It like dredges up stuff with me. Like I'm joking, but seriously. It was the worst. And I finally found a color that I liked less than pink. As long as I live, I will never forget the phone conversation that I had at this job. A woman called up and wanted me to describe some paper to her. And I said I'd be happy to send her some samples or a photo. And she goes, no, just describe them all to me. Now, these are shades of white. I said, please, I'd be happy, I could overnight it. I would be happy to send you samples. No, just tell me. And so I just proceeded to be like, well, Avalanche is more of a fluorescent white than the social white, but like the social white has sort of a nice toothiness to it. And soft white is like a cotton white, not really like a bright white, like really more of like a buttercreamy milky white than like a beige. And it was like my soul left my body. I was like looking at myself from above, being like, this is my rock and I am Sisyphus. I will describe shades of white for the rest of my life. Oh my God. Shortly after that painfully starched conversation, I was no longer employed at that particular establishment. Because no matter how hard I tried, it was made like very clear to me that this was an elegant, fancy, chic place, and I was a tacky embarrassment in the shape of a potato. And that was unacceptable. So while I was relieved, I also felt like a little lost. I wondered if it was possible to find a place where I could be accepted for like the unapologetic, massive loudmouth I was clearly destined to be. So I decided to go searching. These were dark times. I was like, number one, so broke. And I wanted to go places, but I was also convinced that like, I have a massive fear of airplanes. I'm like convinced that every plane I'm gonna get on, it's like, that's the plane. I'm just so special. My therapist is like, you're not special enough to die in a plane crash. And I'm like, okay, but listen. Listen. And it's also kind of like, I think we all have like unresolved 9/11 trauma, but like another talk. So running out of options, I like broke the cardinal rule and I got into an unmarked white van. Like, no, seriously. One day, my friend, a woman named Marissa Paternoster, who like no big deal, is ranked 77th best guitarist of all time, which like, I know. To me, like as a millennial, I'm like, the idea of being 77th best at anything, it like breaks me. But I mean, I guess only having 76 guitarists of like all time and space be better than you is like fine, but it like hurts me a little. Irregardless. Okay, so Marissa calls me up and she asks me if I want to go on tour with her band, which my parents loved this. It was called Screaming Females. Their hair is like graying as I even retell this story. But like even better, they were gonna pay me to do it. It was like a job. And I know jobs, I know gigs, I can do this. It was like the cool punk version of running away and joining the circus. So over the next few years, I went coast to coast, and like up and down, sort of a parallel and perpendicular type lifestyle. And I learned a lot of things, like the cultural definition of the word close varies from region to region. Like I'm from the South, it's close if you can like yell at it and it can hear you. In LA, close means like 3 freeway exits away, and I'm like trying to walk there. But there's this story about Van Halen, that in their contract, in their rider, which like they'd always have little snacks, they would ask for M&Ms, but with no brown M&Ms, and this was always perceived as this like diva thing, like, oh, no brown M&Ms. But like after having this experience, I'm like, it's not about the brown M&Ms, it's about attention to detail, and that's always important. So like, it's about knowing that the people that you're working with are paying attention when it comes to their agreements. And like, though Screaming Females isn't Van Halen, thank God, it is a life lesson that I've kept through to this day. And while I'm like not gonna try and get to like, it's the journey, not the destination, about this whole experience, I will also say that like the first time that I laid eyes on the wind turbines in the Midwest, like I had no idea that those even existed. I was like, holy shit, is this how Don Quixote felt? That was like the power of the landscape. Like my mind reached through like every I Can Has cheeseburger, like a couple of cocktails, and went like full blown Cervantes. And like, That's amazing. So yeah, this and also this experience, I mean, they're essentially a small business. This experience gave me an education in things that like both public school and art school had not. Just like stupid stuff like reporting your taxes and like vertically integrating means of production and like the importance of contracts. But nowhere really felt more at home than the place that I had left behind. And even if it was a little bit like beigey, sandy, oatmeal-y white, there might not have been a Rebecca-shaped hole waiting for me when I got back, but I was gonna do my damnedest to make like a Rebecca-shaped impression. So I decided that Charlotte was my place. I just like need my people. Now over my time touring, I had obviously developed like a certain affinity for live music. But since I have no instrumental ability myself, that mostly for me expresses itself through karaoke. I love karaoke because it's like a universal cheat code. It's like being like, Britney Spears' loneliness is killing her. I'm fine. Like, I'm just telling you what she said. I'm fine. I mean, I'm sure I'm like a little lonely, but she's the weird one, not me. I'm fine. Between tours, I was running my my own company, and I spent most of the day like digitally crowded by people in social media, but like day by day was totally alone. And it was like a drastically different experience than being on tour and being surrounded by people. And like, I did start to feel lonely. It wasn't just Britney, it was me too. And these words started to come to my head. When I was young, I never needed anyone, and making love was just for fun. Those days are gone. Living alone, I think of all the friends I've known, but when I dial the telephone, nobody's home. All by myself. Don't wanna be all by myself anymore. So these words were written by Eric Carmen, but made famous by Canadian vocal diva Miss Celine Dion. And okay, like it really wasn't just Britney Spears, it was me. My loneliness was killing me a little, and I wanted to feel connected to people, and I wondered how I could do that. And I had like kind of this weird idea. So borrowing space, I'm gonna go back just a second. So borrowing space at Goodyear Arts, a local art institution who bravo Goodyear Arts. I would not be a freak on this stage without them. And microphones and amps from various others, I like put it out on Facebook. Hey everyone, I'm gonna sing Celine Dion's All by Myself in this room for the next 5 hours on repeat. Come sing with me. I have beer, the door's unlocked. And just so like people wouldn't think I was kidding, because like weirdly people think I'm kidding a lot, I decided to live cast it on Facebook too, so it's like me standing alone in this room. So at 4 p.m. all by myself, I started to sing, and like, yeah, I also started wondering if I would just be embarrassing myself on the internet for the next 5 hours alone. And I certainly did embarrass myself, but not alone. I learned a lot of It's all on Facebook if you want to watch the full 5 hours. I learned a lot with this project. First, I cannot hit the same high notes as Celine Dion. Shocking, I know. Two, that not knowing the answer can be almost as useful as knowing it. And three, like most people are just incredible weirdos waiting for an invitation. So maybe what I'm here to create is that. The invitation. The irony was not wasted on me, thank you CMS, that even when I was back working in the beige pit, technically I was still making invitations. People will call that an aha moment. I call that an oh shit moment. Art changed me for the better, but I wondered what I could change about art for the better. And since most of the people I knew were artists struggling to make ends meet, I wondered why people don't buy art from artists. I didn't have to wonder very long. People learn that they buy things from stores, and artists aren't stores, and people like stores. They really like stores. And they like to feel like they got a deal, and more than anything, when they buy something, they want to start owning it right now. People are weird like that. And who can blame them? Overall, delayed gratification is not our species' sweet little monkey brain's strong suit. So what can we do about it? My friend and collaborator, Grace Stott, and I wondered about this. Well, what's an art show really? It's 4 walls, some art, and a message. And together we came up with an idea. Our gallery, a moving truck rented by the hour. Our art was prints, editions, and originals, all below $100. Our message, come and get it. So I personally had seen it was possible to make a lot of money out of a van. And so I was like, oh, with a truck, we can just make more. Increase profits, increase size. So wheeling art dealing was begun. It was a financially transparent way to help artists create revenue from their creative endeavors outside of the traditional gallery model. Over a period of 4 months, we sold over $3,700 worth of work out of the back of a frickin' truck. Really makes you wonder, right? Because if imagination is creativity on vacation, wondering puts that creativity back to work. Wonder is the fuel of living. It grounds us in the possibility of our experience. If I had one piece of advice for you, it's this. Don't spend your life wondering if you will fail. Take that idea of things not working out, hold its hand, and take it on a long stroll down the beach at night. Then call it up and ask it to dinner. Gaze at failure from across the table, candlelight flickering in its eyes. Pop champagne and bring it flowers, because I'm here to tell you that looking dumb is the most important part of your life. Fail with enthusiasm. Remember that tragedy plus time equals comedy. Refuse to be shamed by your failures and you are unstoppable. Wait too long and your silly idea will become someone else's big, brilliant idea, and all because you were too scared to call and ask failure out for that second date. Knowing what won't work frees you to figure out how it will work. Imagining can be a way to escape, but wondering can be a way to resist. In today's world, it's easy to use your energy just thinking about how much worse it can get. It's bad. It's real bad. In the time it's taken to plan this talk, it's probably gotten worse. But even though I am much older, more scared, and way more tired than I was when I was a kid imagining the world from scratch, I still want to try and put in the work to figure out where the earth and the sky can touch. And while imagining is what we do when we try and look beyond the horizon, wondering is what happens when we start to head towards it. So yes, use your creativity to imagine a better world. But more importantly, I want to invite you to wonder what it will take to get us there. You're not alone anymore. You're not all by yourself. I've lived a great many lives, and I intend to live a great many more before the curtain closes. Because there are things I have done that I could have never imagined, but I will continue to wonder if there isn't still more to do. And that's wonderful. Thank you.